Now we have businesses saying they will raise prices to cover his jobs tax. We have an energy policy that will drive up bills, and all the while we are spending more day to day on debt interest. The Retail Consortium says 2/3 of businesses will have to raise prices to cope with his tax hike. His Chancellor ignored all the warnings and ploughed ahead with an unprecedented borrowing spree, leaving all of us more vulnerable. The Prime Minister refused to repeat his Chancellor's promise that she wouldn't come back for more. Will he now rule out any new tax rises this year?
Keir Starmer, once hailed as Labour's golden boy, now finds himself in a political firestorm. His promises of transparency and integrity lie in tatters as accusations of lies and cover-ups echo through the halls of Westminster. But how did it come to this? Join us as we unravel the shocking sequence of events that led to Starmer's public shaming at PMQs. From the Tulip Siddiq resignation to the Mauritius deal disaster, we'll show you why Starmer's political career hangs by a thread.
But we have an ironclad commitment to our fiscal rules. We can't just tax our way out of the problems that they left us, which is why we put in place tough... Mr. Speaker, we took the right and difficult decisions at the budget. Decisions that they did not have the courage to take, which left us in the mess in the first place. When it comes to tax, she knows very well the limits of what I can say from this dispatch box. They were howling at the spending decisions. They wouldn't take them, and we'll stick to those spending decisions, and our focus is absolutely on growth. But their record, they flatlined the economy.
Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video. Remember when Keir Starmer seemed like Labour's golden ticket to number 10? Those days now feel like a distant dream, fading faster than Boris Johnson's political career. Starmer's election as Labour leader in April 2020 brought a wave of optimism that crashed over the party like a tsunami of hope. His promises of integrity, competence, and a fresh start resonated with many who were desperate for change after years of Tory rule. But as the saying goes, the higher you climb, the harder you fall. And Starmer's descent from Labour's saviour to political pariah has been nothing short of spectacular.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister knows very well the OBR found no such black hole. And he is talking... He talks about a budget 3 years ago. The borrowing costs last week are at a 27-year high for 30-year gilts. Rushing a deal which will be disastrous and which will land taxpayers with a multi-billion-pound bill. Why does the Prime Minister think British people should pay to surrender something that is already ours?
The cracks in his carefully crafted image began to show almost immediately. His indecisiveness on key issues left supporters scratching their heads and opponents licking their chops. Was this the strong leadership Labour had been promised? Then came the Tulip Siddiq resignation, a blow that hit Starmer's reputation like a heavyweight punch. When one of your closest allies becomes embroiled in a corruption probe, it's not exactly a ringing endorsement of your judgment or your vaunted integrity. The whispers of discontent within the party grew louder, and the vultures began to circle. But Starmer's troubles were just beginning. The Mauritius deal fiasco proved to be a political own goal of epic proportions. His handling of the situation raised serious questions about his decision-making abilities and his grasp of complex international issues. As criticism mounted from both within and outside the party, Starmer's responses became increasingly defensive and evasive. Gone was the confident, straight-talking lawyer who promised to hold the government to account. In his place stood a man who seemed more interested in dodging questions than answering them. And then came the moment that may well define Starmer's leadership, his explosive performance at Prime Minister's questions. In a heated exchange that left even seasoned political observers slack-jawed, Starmer made a claim about the black hole in public finances that was quickly and thoroughly debunked. It wasn't just a misstep, it was a full-blown faceplant on the floor of the House of Commons. But here's the kicker. This was just the beginning of Starmer's PMQs nightmare. His performance would soon take an even more disastrous turn, leaving his credibility in tatters and his political future hanging by a thread. As Starmer approached the dispatch box, the atmosphere in the chamber crackled with anticipation. Little did he know, he was about to walk into a political minefield of his own making. The Prime Minister, armed with an arsenal of facts and figures, was poised to expose the Labour leader's inconsistencies and shatter his already fragile credibility. Starmer's attempts to criticize the government's economic policies quickly backfired in spectacular fashion. The Prime Minister's rebuttal was nothing short of brutal, leaving the Labour leader visibly shaken. With laser-like precision, the PM targeted Labour's own economic failures, reminding the House that under their watch, they flatlined the economy. This stinging accusation left Starmer scrambling for a response, but his usual eloquence deserted him. The Prime Minister didn't stop there. He zeroed in on Starmer's glaring lack of alternative solutions to the current economic crisis. It was a masterclass in political chess, with the PM effectively cornering his opponent at every turn. A blank piece of paper blowing hopelessly in the wind, he declared, painting a vivid picture of Labour's empty promises and lack of concrete ideas. As the verbal onslaught continued, Starmer's body language told a story of its own. Gone was the confident, assured leader who had once promised to restore Labour's credibility. In his place stood a man, visibly wilting under the pressure, his usual poise crumbling with each passing moment. The chamber, sensing blood in the water, erupted into jeers and heckling, further undermining Starmer's attempts to regain control of the narrative. Starmer's fumbling responses and half-baked explanations only served to dig him deeper into the hole. Each weak defense seemed to confirm the Prime Minister's accusations, leaving Labour supporters in the chamber shifting uncomfortably in their seats. The once golden boy of British politics was rapidly tarnishing before their eyes. Keir Starmer's performance at PMQs has left his political career hanging by a thread. Once hailed as Labour's saviour, he now finds himself drowning in a sea of public distrust. Recent polls paint a grim picture, showing a significant decline in voters' faith in both Starmer and the Labour Party. Many who once saw him as a beacon of hope now view him as just another dishonest politician. The Labour Party is facing a crisis of confidence that could rival the darkest days of its history. Can they bounce back from this catastrophe, or is it time to cut their losses and seek new leadership? The clock is ticking, and with each passing day, the damage to their reputation grows.